Mystic Pete here. It's June 3rd, 2021. I have Vanessa, aka Nessa, who is a licensed massage therapist and licensed esthetician. I almost got it out. Good. Hi, Nessa. Thanks so much for coming today. I connected with you on social media, and I thought your story was really interesting, and I wanted the audience to know about you. So you're so well spoken.
Oh, thank you.
Why don't you just give the quick introduction, then we'll get into the story of it.
Well, hello everyone. I am Vanessa, and I love what I do. I've been doing it for 19 years as a massage therapist, and I've actually been an esthetician for about 13 years as well. And I gotta say, I really love what I do. It's a very love and hate profession, but I like to say that I love it more than hate it.
That's interesting. Well, I do body work too, and
Yes.
there's a lot of satisfaction and joy
it is.
in directly helping people and helping people
For
to feel
sure.
better.
Yes.
Not only physically, but emotionally and mentally too. We just see so much progress in a very immediate sense, so I understand how rewarding it can be for you. Why don't you start at the beginning? I was particularly enchanted by your background story.
So I think what Pete is talking about was that I had mentioned to him that I was actually born in Honduras, which is in Central America. It's not a very popular country because a lot of people don't know, but if I say it's next to El Salvador, everybody knows El Salvador.
Tegucigalpa?
Yes, Tegucigalpa, San Pedro. And I was just telling Pete how I grew up in a very impoverished area in my country, and it was called El Sinaí. It was basically nothing but very poor area, a lot of mud houses with dried palm leaves, just like you would probably see in Africa.
Tropical.
Very tropical, yes. Obviously, Honduras is very tropical. We're more on the north. That area was more on the north, mountainous area, but very north. So we did get a lot of the heat as far as that goes. So it was very tropical. I hold it very dear to my heart. I think the roots that I come from, because it actually has taught me a lot of work ethics. When you grow up very poor, you know the feeling of what it's like to go to bed hungry and eating off the land. And when I say by eating off the land was, see, in my country, if you don't really have the means to eat normal food like everybody else, then you go hunting for your food. So I know there were times where we had to go hunting for iguanas.
You're going to have iguanas for dinner or you ain't eating.
Yes, or we would have iguana eggs, We would hunt for turtles so we can get their turtle eggs. And we actually our little hut was near a plantation field. So the plantation was a plantain, which was a green banana. So we would sneak into the plantain, and I guess it was stealing, but what did I know? And we would take a lot of their green bananas, and we would just eat it with burnt oil.
Fond memories.
Yes,
fond iguana, turtle eggs,
turtles,
and bird.
And a hut, too. And corn cobs. I always say corn cobs for toilet paper.
I just have to interject that immigration right now is such a hot and polarizing issue.
Yes, it is.
And there's so many people who think of, those people over there trying to come in our border. And then there's a lot of other people going, they're human beings and there's children and families. They're not just terrorizing horrible drug dealers. They're people.
They are. We came to this country illegally but legally at the same time. I can't say that when back in the 90s, I came in 91, right? November of 91, and we landed in LaGuardia Airport.
Okay.
My father had managed to pay to have fake papers, I guess, So my mother came in as a general's wife, and I came in as a general's daughter. So we see.
So you could start a war by. Okay.
TSA and immigration didn't have strict laws back then for you to be able to have passed through without a problem, and it didn't add up because the daughter of a general was 12 years old and I was 6 at the time. So it was just kind of like, how did you not notice that this is supposed to be a 12-year-old?
A lot looser than, just as a side issue, we were aware of this massive war in Central America, Nicaragua and El Salvador.
Yeah.
And I was on the side of progressives, outraged about what the Reagan administration was doing.
Yes.
But I don't know how it affected Honduras or you particularly, or whether you're even aware of it?
I think that happened after the fact. It affected, I think, my father. I think my grandmother was from El Salvador, and my dad was born in Honduras. So they were at war with each other, El Salvador and Honduras. So you were not welcomed in Honduras if you were from El Salvador. So it was very sink or swim. So when it came down to it and marshals were coming in, I remember my grandmother had to pick up everything she had and whatever children she had, because she had a lot of them, she had to just leave with what she had. She left my father behind because he wasn't around, and my father was disabled. So, here's this disabled kid who was left behind, and he resented, I think, for many years my grandmother, because to him it's like, you left me, you took my siblings, and you left me in a country, and that he had to learn to fend for himself, and then it's like, well, we're at war, it's like you got to pick up and go or die or get shot at per se. But definitely I did see the effects that had on him, what a war and separation of families, and I guess that's just almost like what's going on right now with the wall, with the separation of families and having to force that, separation, where it's not really the child's fault, it's the circumstances of it all. But
to have some of these monstrous policies, there has to be a dehumanizing.
Yeah.
They have to be seen as criminals or, aliens. But here you are, a child of Central America. The details of your arrival here are all sketchy. But here you are, such a graceful, poised,
trying to give back to the American people.
Well, but like just a beautiful being who helps people and so kind and well spoken.
One body at a time.
Well, anything to say between the moment of arrival and you want to film this for
29 years later?
Yeah.
You
got through it.
Yes, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think that my upbringings in my country, and to see to feel the hunger, to see the impoverished, it was, I have to say, some of the best times of my life. I think some of my best memories, no matter how hard they were when I had nothing. Looking back at the freedom that we had as children to play in the mud and the dirt without even thinking twice. Children were allowed to freely play in the streets. Like,
wait, no nothing. iPhone? No iPhone? No
well,
computer games? How did you... Are you kidding?
Man, we used to make mud pies and eat them. That's...
You know what I'm saying? A different era, and you were much happier than the kids today, right?
Yes, millennials. I have to say yes. Hard times, but one thing that I did learn was the family always stuck together. If we all were, in the same situation, if I ate, you ate. If you didn't, I didn't. That's just how it was. Like, we were all in it together.
And the issue today is so much isolation and alienation from each other. Exactly. And everybody's lonely. Mm-hmm. I mean, we just came through a pandemic, but even before then, we just feel so isolated and everybody just down on their phone all the time.
Yep.
But you're saying in this place of kind of poverty, it was in a way much richer and more love and kindness and people caring for each other. Wow, okay, I'm going back. I'm going there.
It was definitely, I think back and I remember things that my mom was like, you remember that? I'm like, yeah, Mom, I remember going to the well. We had a pumping well. Okay. In order to get our water, we didn't have sinks in the house. So we had to take our bucket, go to the community well in the middle of this little impoverished village, and we had to pump and pump and pump our water and carry it, whether it's a 5-gallon bucket, back to our little hut.
If you wanted water, that's every bucket had to be carried.
Yes, and if you wanted to watch TV, there was only one house in the whole community that had TV, and let me tell you, the whole community would gather up and watch through the windows of the house the telenovelas. I would sit, as a little girl, I would sit on my aunt's shoulders just to watch, the telenovela from the outside of this family that would watch, from the inside, because it was one TV that they would have that it's like, that was our entertainment. It was like a drive-in, except through the windows. It was, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Kind of an amazing story. It's so kind of rich and so far from everything we know right now and the conveniences we have and just taking for granted so much luxury and appliances is just like nothing to us.
Yes. Definitely simplicity definitely played a big role in what eventually would become, I guess, Vanessa the entrepreneur.
Well, coming to this country, did you feel discrimination? Did you have a hard time fitting in, or was it a little smoother?
I didn't have a hard... in the beginning, yes. I mean, I was a 7-year-old, didn't know any English. I got left back because of my English, but I learned English in 9 months, and it allowed, it did have a lot of, I wouldn't say bullying, but to not be able to meet... I mean, there was a time that, I was trying to tell a teacher, baño, like I had to go pee to the bathroom, and she's like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I'm like, baño, and nobody in the classroom except one classmate knew what I was talking about. And she's like, teacher, she needs to go to the bathroom. And she's like, oh, well, then go. It was too late. I peed myself in the classroom.
Wow.
And it was just
painful, embarrassing.
Very embarrassing for a new kid from the block, right?
But you got through it,
Yeah.
and so found your way into adulthood, and found your way into this interesting profession. You're a massage therapist,
yes,
and an esthetician. Yes. I will get it right by the end of the interview.
Well, an esthetician's licensing is categorized under appearance enhancement.
Okay.
It's what barbers do. It's what cosmetologists do, and then we do. So our appearance enhancement falls under anything that enhances your look, from makeup to skincare and to body care. So our specialty is almost like the Playboys of dermatology. See, dermatologists go more extensive into skin diseases.
More medical.
Yes.
You're more
Well,
appearance.
estheticians, exactly. Estheticians, we do facials. We do anything that, if your skin is dry, if your skin is, shedding, we help that area. If you're hairy, we'll remove some of that hair. If you're need a full body exfoliation, we'll scrub you up. If your scalp is a little itchy, anything that basically makes you, as the client or the guest, feel more, we enhance that look.
So people feel good about themselves because they feel like they look good.
Yes.
By the way, your website is the conciergespa.com.
Yes,
The conciergespa.com.
Yes.
Nessa here. On your Instagram, it says, come in as a guest.
Leave as a friend.
Yeah.
Well, I have this big concept that, when you're dealing with intimate services, as a massage therapist, people get naked. That's intimate. As an esthetician, if you're not doing a facial, you're doing a Brazilian, or...
You're working down there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very intimate. And you hear about all these factory-like places. A lot of our clients call them the factory workers, because they get you in, get you out, get you in, get you out. And so I wanted to create...
It's a machine.
Yeah. I wanted to create a non-factory-like environment where we're building relationships. You're trusting me with your body, your face, your intimate parts, that it's unfair for me to just get you in and get you out, So I just felt as though my goal was to create an environment where you were coming to your aunt's house and you're going to chill out. Our facility, we have a New York and Los Angeles location. So our Long Island location, it's a very small, intimate space. Everybody swears that that's an apartment because it's done so homey. And the aspect behind it was that I want you to come in as a stranger. Maybe we don't know each other from a hole in the wall, but by the time you leave that door, it's like we've known each other a lifetime, And I wanted to create that environment, that vibe, right? What people will call it nowadays. And I realized that in the few years at that time, before we created that as to be our slogan, was that I got these stickers, these decals that I found at the dollar store. And I thought they were cute, and I got them from my apartment 13 years ago, right? And it said, come in as guests, leave as friends. Because when people came home to come visit me, I wanted them to feel like you're a guest, but you're going to leave like family.
Well, I'd like to point out, actually connecting some dots here, the experience you had growing up of social intimacy and being cared about, and which I pointed out our society is somewhat bereft of that and really missing in that, particularly after we've been all isolated for the last year. One of the main ways, I think particularly women allow themselves to find that intimate experience is at the nail salon, is when getting a facial or getting some beauty treatment. So that is like our societally approved method of feeling cared for and intimacy in this otherwise isolated society. You know, we were talking earlier and you were saying you massage men and how important it is for men to be touched.
Yes.
And they're just like craving that kind of contact, and most men don't get it.
Yes, and that's where our biggest success happened. So what happened was that for some reason when we opened the company up, we were just attracting male clientele. And I thought that was interesting because I would only get males that called. For whatever reason they were calling, we noticed that it was a lot of lawyers, a lot of doctors, a lot of Wall Street people. I was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to monetize on this then, you know? And I just started realizing that there was such a high demand for male and now you're talking about this is 13 years ago. The openness of male getting their mani-pedis was not in back then. So the aspect of a man saying, I want to get my back waxed was unheard of at a salon. Because a man saying that they wanted to get their back waxed, trust me, they were going to be scrutinized the minute that they walked in. They were going to get looked at, stared at. Men hate, and you talk about professional men. We're talking about doctors, we're talking about lawyers, we're talking about the everyday male, even Joe Schmoes, you know, construction workers. So I started to realize men are just as much in need of this woman experience, right? Because women are entitled. Women own the spa industry. Women are the ones that are like, well, I'm getting a facial and it's okay. But if a man wants to say, I'm getting a facial, I'm gonna go get my back waxed, it's just kind of, and my nails done, it's just kind of like, ugh, you know? So men were made to feel ashamed of wanting to take care of themselves. And moving forward, you know, I have sons, and I tell my boys, you need to learn to take care of yourself. It's not being vain. It's just being self-care, self-love. It's important for you as a man to know how to take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. And if that means getting a massage, if that means getting a facial, as a man, it is okay to be well-groomed. There is nothing wrong with that. It just means that you like to take care of yourself. It just means that you like to be well-groomed. There's no crime in that.
Well, there's being well-groomed.
Exactly.
But then there's like looking good. But then there's the other part, as we've talked about, which has to do with touch and contact and feeling cared about.
And I think that it's lacking so much in this day and age, you know.
We have to pay somebody to care for us.
It's important, though, because I feel like men are the underdogs. I think men are the ones with the short end of the stick, and I saw that and I said no, you know. And so we specialized with males. We didn't start inviting women into our space till like 5 years in, where we invited women through couples massage, and we started inviting women in that aspect. But for many years we only dealt with men and catering their needs, whether it was a massage, whether it was a wax, whether it was a facial, you know, anything in those terms, because we were the only place that would openly say, you're welcome here.
So I'm talking with Nessa with the conciergespa.com. And why don't we talk a little about the actual services that you perform? You talk about waxing a man's back, and I'm thinking about you pouring hot wax on me and ripping the hair out. I'm going like, no, I don't need my hair.
You're the 40-year-old virgin.
I don't need to well, why people would want to have their hair ripped out? Okay, I'll be quiet. You talk, so I don't sound like
I think that when the 40-year-old virgin came out and Steve Carell did that scene of the chest, it really embedded into society's brain that that's how waxing is perceived, and it really messed it up for a lot of potential people that were
sadistic.
Yes. And I tell people, I mean, I even did an educational video on it on our YouTube channel, was because people just assume that that's going to be the experience. And I said no, because a lot of clients will be like, oh my gosh, is it going to hurt? How is it going to be? And you try to talk them down like, listen, this is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to go, blah, blah, blah. And when they come in, you know what I hear? 9 out of 10? Oh my gosh, that wasn't so bad, you know? And I think that you also have to have a good personality. I talk to my clients a lot. It's like holding your hand.
You're communicating with them and not just joking. You're not punishing.
Laughing. You know, when they feel like, and I tell them, listen, when I say brace yourself, I'm going to tell you brace yourself. It's going to be a little quick pull, and then it's it, okay? And I'm like, I don't lie. So if I tell you it's not going to hurt, it's not going to hurt. But if I tell you just really quick brace yourself, you might feel it, and then it's going to go away. And they're like, oh, okay. And literally as I say what happens, that's how it goes, you know? And so you build this trust, too, with your client.
You communicate with them.
You communicate, and I tell them this is the only way this relationship is going to work is if we communicate. One of our most popular services is waxing. Our most common waxing is a man's back and then a man's manzillion, which is
manzillion, like a Brazilian
exactly,
for a man.
A man's Brazilian, right? You talked about the women's Brazilian, which means everything coming off.
Oh, everything.
Everything. Unless it's specified.
So they look like a dolphin.
Yeah, you look like, yeah, exactly. It's what we call the bald eagle. But usually, like, a woman's Brazilian is taking all the hair off unless they want like a landing strip or a little square left behind, right? And you're cleaning up all the lips, right? So that's for the female. If they want to say, you know what, I like a little hair. Not all guys like a bald eagle look, you know? Some guys want to leave a little hair. So you said, great, we'll leave a little hair on top. And that's what a manzillion consists of. It's a win-win in the essence of, like, a lot of guys will ask, well, what do most guys get done, you know? Because that's the gossip talk, right? Well, what's the most popular thing? And I tell them it's a 50-50. Most guys will say, give me a bald eagle. I want it all off. And then most guys will say, leave me a little bit of hair, maybe trim it down, you know, so it looks nice and groomed, and then take everything else off. And we take everything off, you know? So I can't say one is more popular than the other. It's a 50-50 type of thing with the gentleman. Another thing too is that a lot of people, you know, can't handle the waxing, right? For them, they'll be like, oh no, I can't. So there's alternatives. So we trim. So we'll trim the area because, let's be honest, not a lot of men like hair, and not a lot of men's partners like hair. So our job really affects the bedroom as well. We are able to create a clean environment.
Hygiene.
Right? And I'm going to get to that, you know? And a lot of people will say, well, I can do my own trim job. I don't understand why I have to pay for it, or why would anybody pay for it? Well, what a lot of people don't understand is that there are people that are too heavy to reach down there. There are people that don't have a steady hand who cut themselves when they go down there. And then you have people that have diseases. I have clients that have Parkinson's. They're shaky. You can't try to cut down there if you're shaky. So, you know.
You might cut the wrong thing.
And they have. So, in the essence of being able to provide that feeling of a man saying, I feel good, I feel clean, I feel hygienic, I've taken all the hair off in areas that I don't want hair. You know, like Mike Rogue, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
It seems to be a whole new trend.
Yes.
Of particularly women wanting body hair, wanting underarm hair,
yes,
and so forth. So I don't know if it's infringing on your business, but
actually, I'd be surprised because men some of their partners do like the hair, but it's all about compromising to them because they don't like body hair. So I've had some wives come in with their husbands so that they can actually decide, no, honey, not too much, you know, and they'll dictate me like how much of it they want off and how much they don't, you know, and they kind of like balance each other out, like, well, can I do this? If I don't do this, can I do this, you know? Because at the end of the day, it's all about compromising.
And it's a couple's negotiation,
yes,
and your partner may like you looking
yes,
a certain way.
yes,
They may like your legs looking like
yes,
Sasquatch or not.
Exactly.
And
yes,
interesting times.
And a lot of guys.
So it's all about choice.
Exactly, because a lot of guys say she likes hair, but I don't, Vanessa. I like being clean. I can't tell you, honest to God, I do not.
Oh, guys want the hair.
Yeah,
and
no, they don't want the hair.
The guys want the hair off,
and their spouses don't,
because they don't want to have to be shaving their armpits and shaving their legs, because once you shave,
you know, that prickle.
You don't want all those nubs which
yes,
are scratchy. So
and a lot of females, you know, when
they want to go natural.
Yes, but also too, the guy is very conscientious that their partner, when their hair grows in, if they shave, you're talking about prickles.
You're right.
Which irritate.
It gets sharp.
So when you wax, it actually comes back thinner and lighter and not as coarse, so there's no prickles when your hair grows back, because you're taking the hair from the root, compared to when you're shaving, you're cutting just the superficial part. So that's the alternative of why some men will rather do the waxing, because it grows in nicer and less prickles, so everybody's happy, they get their hair removal and their spouses are happy, their partners, whatever the case, so it's very considerate of them to be like, I want her to be happy, but I want to be happy too.
There's a lot to this. Who would have thought? Yeah, because when you cut a hair, it becomes this sharp edge.
Exactly.
When you rip it out, it grows in like a
out.
baby hair.
Yes.
I don't, but why? Okay, maybe this is way outside of this conversation, but why do men like women so hairless? I don't quite get it. I mean, is it some kind of dolphin obsession, or?
No, because I actually know some men who love a little bush. Some men are like, I want to feel like I'm with a woman, not
right.
Yeah, they, and vice versa with women. So that's what I'm saying. The compromising comes in. If you're going to be hairy, make it groomed, so you're nice and trim. So you still have hair, but it's not like bushy and wild and chaotic.
So it feels attractive and well,
it looks nice, well maintained, and you're like, that looks really nice. Makes it more appealing.
The other part of the work you do is massage therapy,
Yes.
and that's like something everybody could and should be getting regularly, just to feel good, to let down, to be touched for health, for emotional health.
Consecutive massages, getting massages on a consistent basis actually adds about 5 years to your lifespan. And I think that's because with massages, you're also increasing your endorphins, which is your natural high. It's like that, that's why when you get a massage and you get off the table, you're just so woozy. And
You're relaxed.
You're high.
Your lower blood pressure.
Exactly.
And an experience of beauty and peace.
I try to get massage at least on a weekly basis. Different types of massages too. Like sometimes I get sports therapy massage, so I'm being dug into differently into trigger points. It's not the best. It's not the that relaxing. But then every other week I try to get something that's more relaxing, more in tune with my muscles, rather than targeting certain areas that I know I need as a body worker. But it's an amazing experience. I think that it's something that some people don't like touch, and that's okay. But if you're the person that is not shy to touch, I think that massage should be one of those things that everybody should definitely try at least once. It just sucks, when you get the wrong therapist as your first time, So when I see people... One thing I do have to say, though, that I'm very proud of to see is that when I first started, my generations of age frame was like mid-30s to 60s.
People who would allow themselves to have a massage, treat themselves.
Exactly. Now, in the last 5 years, I can tell you that younger and younger generations are starting to become more present in the essence of self-care. I've got people in their 20s, early 20s. I mean, the youngest manzillion that I've ever done was 18 years old. And that's the youngest male client that I've had for, let's say, waxing. The oldest that I've ever had was 72. I had a 65-year-old man who never waxed a day in his life. He waxed, right? And I said to him, so what did your wife think? He's like, you know what she told me? She goes, why couldn't you do this 30 years? So I said, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I'm very happy to see that the generations, younger and younger people in their 20s, are starting to come out and say, hey, I want to get a massage. I want to take care of myself. And that's a beautiful thing to see, because the times are changing, and people are becoming more aware of that and self-care, and the amount of stress that is in our society right now. For younger generations to start seeing that also lets me know that the intensity of our stress in the work environment is increasing. So it's definitely a good thing to see that.
Nessa, thank you so much for coming into studio today. Nessa, the Concierge, spa.com.
Yes.
Yay.